Hi, I'm Tia from vintagegirl.net and welcome to my first tech unboxing. What I have here today is the ASUS ePad Transformer. This is the 32GB version, which comes bundled with the keyboard dock. I'm going to apologise quickly for the voiceover recording, but the original audio unfortunately didn't work out the way I'd planned. So opening up the box, the first thing we see is the tablet. I'm really impressed with the way that ASUS has actually packaged this up. There's minimal waste. I know with past tech purchases there has been a lot of internal packaging, whereas this is really lovely and clean. Underneath the tablet is the keyboard dock. I was also very impressed that in Australia they have offered the dock as part of a bundle with the 32GB. Then there's all the paraphernalia. That envelope contained warranty and very small manuals. Then we have the charging stuff. I was a little disappointed to see that there was a proprietary pin to USB cable for the charging of the ASUS. I had hoped for a mini USB so that it would be sort of a standard port. And there is the 240 volt adapter. Now let's get on to the actual tablet. The first thing I noticed about the ASUS was not its specs, but actually the way it looked. Where most tablets and a lot of devices these days are very slick and very shiny, very glossy and very black, the ASUS has a very different look. It's got this beautiful sort of bronze copper tone matte textured backplate. Now, not only does this mean that it's not a fingerprint magnet, but it also won't show scratches if you happen to scratch it up a little bit. But I also think it gives it a really nice feel in the hand. The texture, it doesn't feel slippery at all. And, so even without a fitted cover, it feels really nice to hold. Now going to have a look around the edges, and on the left hand side we've got the power button and the volume rocker. There's nothing across the top because it does double as a netbook. On the right hand side we've got a 35mm jack, headset jack. We've got a mini HDMI and a micro SD card slot. A lot of tablets seem to be missing that expansion directly into the tablet. On the bottom, in the middle here, this is where the pin goes in for charging. It's also where it docks to the keyboard. Either side of that are two sort of stabilizing and locking points for the keyboard dock. Now, one other thing I liked about the ASUS was the placement of the camera. It's at the middle, on the long edge. A lot of tablets have it up on the short edge, in the middle, or on the side. But to me this makes more sense because when you're holding it in your two hands, sort of, if you were going to take a photo, it just seems to be in the right place. Similarly on the front, the forward-facing camera is also on the long side, right in the middle. Not up the short end, but a good place for, if it was docked in the keyboard, for video chatting. And, even if it wasn't, it gives you a nice sort of handle to be able to hold it. Now the bezel on the ASUS is a little larger than a lot of other tablets, but I like it. I think it gives you sort of something a little more to hold on to. I also don't feel as if I might accidentally touch something on the edge of the screen while I'm doing something else holding it in my hands. Now just a little bit about the display. It's an IPS display, which means it's just the depth of colour is really, really nice. It's also got a 178-degree viewing angle, which means you can have somebody either side of you and they're still going to get a really good view of what's on the screen. Great if you happen to be watching a movie on it. But I keep coming back to this backplate. For me that was a really big thing. And as you can see, unfortunately the screen is a fingerprint magnet, but that will happen with any touch device. On to the keyboard. Now again, I was really impressed that ASUS bundled the larger tablet, larger memory tablet with the keyboard. It actually made it a really really easy decision which size to get, because the 32 gig was not that much more expensive when you considered you got twice the memory and a keyboard dock. It's the lovely same sort of bronzy coppery tone as the tablet, which makes sense because once it's docked it looks like a really cohesive unit. Now this top foldy over section is on your first try a little bit stiff, but that's where it docks. It holds it in really nicely. And you can probably see in there right in the middle is the connector port, and either side it's got little lock clips. That's the release key, so it's clicks when you put it in, and you just sort of push it over to pull it out. Just means that it's in there really, really tight. It's also got the little rubberized feet on the bottom, so you're not having to worry about scratching the plate when it's sitting on a table. It's also got a trackpad and a rocker mouse. The keys on the keyboard are actually fantastic. There's a lot of Android-based keys, and for me the size, some people complain it's a bit small, but it's about the regular size of a 10-inch netbook. For me that's not so bad. I've got medium-sized hands, but if your hands are a little bigger, you might find it a little tight. But as I was saying, there's a lot of Android keys on there, and it brings a lot of functionality when it is plugged in. Now, the other thing I liked about the dock is that it gives you more ports. On the right hand side we've got a USB port and a full-size SD card slot. So you're out and about and you're taking pictures and you want to upload them. Throw your SD card into the base and off you go. And on the left-hand side, there is another USB port, and up the top there is the charging connector. So you can have it sort of sitting there plugged into power. And there's the USB port. So you've got two USB ports and a full-size SD card slot. Now, the keyboard is a bit weighty, but that's because it's also a battery. It adds about another 7 to 8 hours to the life of the tablet. And the really clever thing is that the tablet will drain the keyboard before it drains power on itself. So if you have them both charged up and you go on a bit of an extra long car trip, or you don't happen to be able to plug it in for the entire day, then you don't have to worry about running out of battery. When connected, when all docked up and it folds up like a netbook, it looks like a netbook. It doesn't look like they're not supposed to be together. It does make it a bit heavy, but again, you've got 16 to 17 hours worth of battery life in that particular unit, which I think makes it well worth that little bit of extra weight. It's not really any heavier than a netbook, but it has far more battery life. It does make it expensive for a netbook, but you've got that versatility of having it just as a tablet or connected up as a netbook. So for me, having that versatility was a real bonus. Now, one last thing is I was mentioning the stability of it when it was docked. So I'm just going to pop this in and get it really locked in there, and you can pick it up by the tablet and it won't fall out. Thank you for joining me for my first unboxing of the ePad Transformer Plus Keyboard Dock. Catch me on my website, vintagegirl.net.